Now, we come to agenda item 16. This is to discuss and act on flying the Black Lives Matter flag. And after we have that discussion, we'll have another discussion about flying the blue flag. I would start with the flying the Black Lives Matter flag, and we're going to discuss and act on it because the town council has the authority to vote to continue flying it or to take it down. Before we hear from the public, I wanted to see if anyone on the council wanted to be heard on the Black Lives Matter flag. Anyone on the council? Okay. Seeing none, then I will open it up to the public. And the first person who would like to be heard is TR, Tom Remishitis. We unmute him, please. You're unmuted, sir.
Thanks, Mike. Hey, can I make a suggestion that we just pass over this for now and go to item number 19? Because I feel this will take a long time, and I know you have a little bit more business to discuss on bids. So maybe we should do that and then come back to this article.
Well, I think there's a lot of folks here who wanted to talk about this, so we're going to have to get through this, and if we can't let everyone be heard, we'll have to revisit it in October.
I'm not saying not to let everybody not talk. I think the bid process will only take a couple of minutes, if I'm not mistaken. You guys.
Yeah, I don't think it will take very long either, but either way, we're going to be here late, so I think we'll just go in this order. I guess the first person who wanted to substantively speak on this would be Ms. Gilday, Libby Gilday. If we can unmute her, please.
Hello, yes, my name is Libby Gilday. I'm a resident at 136 Metropolitan Park Drive, and I just wanted to say that having had the opportunity to review a lot of the letters that were sent in and a lot of the material that was available online regarding both the taking down of the Black Lives Matter flag and the raising potentially of the Back the Blue flag, I was really disappointed by the rhetoric in the letters. It seemed like there was a lot of vitriol and just various spellings and misspellings of the word Marxist being thrown around, and it seemed very much to me like it wasn't addressing the heart of the issue, which I feel like is something that people have been bringing up consistently tonight, and that is that we want Barrington to be a welcoming and diverse and inclusive place. I think we're kidding ourselves if we can look around at our town and say that somebody bringing their family, bringing their children here could move here and look around and see visible indicators that this is a safe and welcoming place. I like to think that those of us who live here know that and understand that, but I want people to feel safe here when they bring their families, when they bring their children, particularly if they are families of color. I think that taking down a Black Lives Matter flag in this environment sends a very specific message contrary to that effect. And I think that raising a back the blue flag would also send an even stronger message. And I think that there is a huge danger in conflating an identity that you can't abandon and that is a part of you, and an identity that is not chosen with an identity that is chosen. I have 6 siblings in this town. I have 6 younger siblings, and my mother and I try very hard to have conversations with them about issues like this, and we try very hard to educate them in diversity and inclusion, and I don't want to have to drive past the town hall and explain that to them, because I would find that very difficult to explain and very difficult to reconcile with my perception of the way that I like to see this town.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to be heard on this, on the Black Lives Matter flag? Okay.
There are several.
I cannot see their hands.
Paul Dolcinos,
Okay.
Drakey, Bruckner. Kelvin Mazursky.
Paul,
Mike?
if you
Yeah,
like to hear.
Yeah, I want to apologize up front because I don't have the agenda in front of me, and I know we have a presentation we want to do as far as the proposed flag policy. So, I mean, I can save my comments for that and address this comprehensively, as far as flags in general and their proper display in conjunction with the American flag. So, is this the forum, or is this just specifically only dealing with the BLM flag? And this is...
For now, we're talking about the BLM flag. We will
Okay.
get to the flag policy.
All right. Well, I'll save my powder till then. Thank you.
Okay. Trinky, did you want to be heard? Yes, I see your hand.
Yes, just very briefly. I'm so proud of Barrington that the flag is up there. I would hate to see it taken down. I applaud the courage of Mr. Cunha in raising that flag. I think it sends a powerful, wonderful message. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else want to be heard? Please let me know if you see folks, because I can't.
Kelvin does, Mike.
Kelvin Mazursky, please.
All right, so just got to say thanks, Mr. Cunha, for taking, once again, leadership for the health and well-being of our community. Thanks, that's all.
Thank you. Anyone else? Let's see hands.
Pamela?
Pamela. Please.
Hi, yes, thank you so much. I'm at 14 Pine Avenue in Barrington. I was so impressed when Barrington put the flag up, because I have been a teacher at Barrington Christian Academy for 20 years. And the town is known for not being welcoming to people of color, both students and friends of mine that have driven through. So when it went up, I thought, oh my goodness. And the reason that it's so important to me is because I've been doing a lot of studying and educating myself over the past 7 years, because I'm white, obviously, and I knew nothing of what was going on for other people's, for the people of color and their experience in this country. I had no idea. But since then, I've learned a lot, and we are in the second civil rights movement. We are in a continuation. That's what this is. And a lot of small towns, many small towns, many places of worship, we were on the wrong side of the civil rights movement the last time. And I'm so encouraged and really hoping that we will be on the right side of history this time. So that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. Sorry, I've forgotten your name, and it's just showing your business. If we can.
Hi, sorry, it's Adrian Burke, 25 Edwin Street. I think this is a continuation to what we were just talking about with the previous point to some extent. And what I would like to encourage with everybody in thinking about all of these major subjects is that they're heated and they're emotional. And we should trust in our systems and trust in our government and trust in our processes to work through these conversations and work through all of the decisions that we have to make going forward. I think that in the community of Barrington, in the community of Rhode Island, we have many flags that we could fly on that flagpole. I don't think it's only just Black Lives Matter. Mariana and Wafa, we might be minorities of certain groups. We might find that we are minorities of different groups, and we might find that we have that kind of allegiance with different minority groups. I could say that I'm a minority group with you. I could also say that I look like I'm white. I could also say that my background is not necessarily white. We have to go through the process of having the conversations. If it involves listening, if it involves joining committees and participating, if it involves helping to get us to that next step, to have decisions and make new policies, we need to participate in that. Any kind of negative, derogatory bullying, we could call it bullying, we can call it bashing, doesn't help the process. And if there are groups that want to form groups to help develop committees, that's great. But if we have existing committees that are there to help make decisions, we need to support those committees. If we have flagpoles that fly flags, whether it's half-mast on a day when we've lost lives, or we have flags that are up there that represent certain symbols of our communities and our experiences, we should support those because we know that that represents something that somebody is experiencing. And it might not be from our community or our minority. We have to accept the fact that we all will be part of a minority. We are a mixed group of people from a combination of different backgrounds, and there is nothing that anybody could say which would represent a majority. And in such, we have a government that's formed. We have policies and systems that are formed to help us work through this. And Kate, I thank you for representing the fact that we have the town council. And Wafa and Mariana, I'm with you, and you're not alone. We are all with you. I don't know of these other groups, but we are making an effort as a community to work through this, and we're going to make an effort to find a better place. So that's all I have to say tonight, and thanks everybody for making the effort to be here tonight to try to work through this, and we will get there. We're going to get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hands. Okay. So I don't see anyone else from the public. Councilor Breyer.
So I'd like to make a motion, but have some things I'd like to say first, if that's okay.
Sure.
Raising the Black Lives Matter flag is about more than aligning with an organization. BLM is first and foremost a movement to recognize that Black lives matter equally. Few people would openly disagree that they should, but many people would agree that the systems and institutions in America and in Rhode Island and in Barrington don't reflect that they do. There are those who would say, including in some of the 8 letters that we received opposing the flag, but we did receive 40 in support. There are some who would say that BLM is a Marxist organization that promotes violence, and they cited BLM's own website to support that, which is not at all true. It's objectively untrue that the organization is against democracy or that it's pro-violence. In fact, in a recent study, it was shown that nearly 95% of all the racial justice protests in the last several months have been peaceful with no property damage. We can't do much in the grand scheme of things as a town, but stating our values and committing to local policy is among the things that we can do. The town manager made the statement on behalf of the town, and though I would have preferred that it be done through a different process, I can't imagine ending that statement before taking at least some action toward it. And there are those in town who feel triggered or hurt by this flag, who believe that this is a statement the town has no business making, or who believe in lies about what the flag represents. Some of these people submitted a request to fly a different flag, a request that would force the BLM flag to come down and be replaced by a different flag. And when that request was not granted, they simply asked for the Black Lives Matter flag to be taken down, exposing the primary intent. And there should be nothing divisive about the Black Lives Matter flag because Black Lives Matter. And because Black Lives Matter, and we have neighbors who haven't yet embraced the message, I think we should fly the flag for a good long time to ensure that the town of Barrington has done an adequate job sending the message to all residents and visitors. So I propose the Black Lives Matter flag remain flying until February 1st, 2021, at which time it would be replaced with the Pan-African flag to fly during the month of February in recognition of Black History Month.
Okay.
And I make that motion.
Motion has been made. Is there a second? Okay. Not seeing a second. Before we go further on this, I support the flying of the Black Lives Matter flag. I know that that has been a controversial thing. I know that our town manager has taken a lot of heat for that and been called a Marxist, which is astounding for somebody who spent 30 years in the Navy. But I think one of the things that when we talk about how we want to make Barrington a more inclusive, a more diverse, a more welcoming place, we should also try, as we're doing that, to bring as many people along with us as we do that. And I think these discussions are useful because they help other people see positions that might not be immediately obvious to them. Folks who want to defend the American flag and they don't think it's appropriate to fly any flag there, okay. Folks that feel that Black Lives Matter is an attack on them or an attack on their values. I think we have to try to look at it from the perspective of other people. And I'll give you an example that comes close to home. We fly the American flag at my house, and we've always, I really feel strongly that we should do that. And for me, it's somewhat of an act of defiance. Those people that we all saw who were carrying those tiki torches with those angry, angry faces and carrying flags, American flags around. That flag doesn't belong to them. And I felt that it's important for us to keep flying that flag. And yet, when I put up I have a gigantic flag that I put up sometimes, my kids were getting angry at me, my adult children. And the reason they were getting angry at me after a lot of discussion that we learned is they were saying, how do you think it would feel if you were someone who didn't know who lived in that house and they came by and they just saw that flag? Now, you may want to claim that flag back from the people who hate, but those people may come by, and if they're Black or if they're gay, they may feel that threatened or unwelcome because of that flag. And that breaks my heart, the idea that our American flag would make anyone feel that way. But it was important for me to hear that. And so now I hope that when people go by our house and they see the American flag and the pride flag, then they recognize at least that this is a welcoming house. We want people to feel welcome, and we want people to come along with us as we're trying to make Barrington a more welcome and inclusive place. And I think that's important. So I will make a motion that we continue flying the Black Lives Matter flag through November of this year. And I'll see if anyone wants to second that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just for 1 minute. Like you, I'm thrilled the town manager put that flag up. It doesn't by itself solve a tremendous number of problems, but it says that Barrington has sort of picked a side in this struggle and said it, kind of loudly, judging by the attendance at tonight's meeting. The question of when to take it down, I think in some ways it's an impossible one, right? I mean, you could say we're going to leave it up there till the struggle's over, right? And 100 years from now, after we've replaced it, I don't know how many times we take it down. We could say February, we could say November. The problem I have is that I see it as the government, the existing government, making a statement about what its values are, right? That we don't have any hesitation saying it, and we know full well it's going to make a lot of people angry to say it, and that's fine. We're fine taking that anger. We've done plenty of things that make people angry. But I'm not going to be here at the end of November, and I'm not going to be here in February. And I don't think it's really my place to say what the majority of the town council should say, because the majority is being replaced, right? I mean, there's 3 new members, no matter who gets elected. Now, they could certainly come into office and take action to undo it, whatever we do tonight. But it just, to me, it seems hollow. Like Jacob, I agree. It should be up there until everyone knows. There's no question. We would leave it up there as long as it took to tell you this is where we stand. So much so that the action of taking it down would be a non-event, essentially, saying, we've worn you down, right? But I don't know why we need to pick a date as we sit here. If we don't vote to take it down tonight, it's not coming down tonight. It's certainly not coming down before October 5. And on October 5, if we don't vote to take it down, well, it's probably not coming down until January because, like we've been talking about, there's not really a business meeting until January. But I don't think we need to sit here and say tonight there's a start or end date to this. There's no end.
If I can add to Councillor Boyajian's comments, the idea of taking it down is what was the primary guide in my motion, which was it was being replaced by the Pan-African flag, which was chosen because I view it as a more educational tool. It's a flag that people will look at and wonder what it is, and maybe they learn something. And it's also sending a very consistent message with what I view as the Black Lives Matter flag. And then it sort of makes it a non-event. It's coming down, but being replaced by something with a similar message. And that new flag is going up for a particular purpose, which is Black History Month. And so I appreciate, Steve's foresight that, that's making a decision for the next council. And so I'm on board with the idea of deciding tonight that it stays up until the council decides it comes down. And maybe in January we have that discussion.
Vice President Waynes.
I would agree with Jacob. I disagreed with his flying the Pan-African flag in February because Black History Month, in my estimation, is about African Americans who have come from, it's their history. It's not Ethiopians' history or Ghana's history. It's African Americans who have, and all that through history they have added to our culture in terms of literature and activism and music and science. And so I would disagree. I disagreed with your proposal because I didn't get the Pan-African flag. I think it muddies the discussion, I guess. But I do agree that I feel most comfortable leaving the Black Lives Matter flag up until the next council makes a decision otherwise.
Then do you want to make that a motion that we'll leave it up, Councilor Hearn? You have to.
Muted.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to add, I appreciate that the Black Lives Matter flag is flying. I have problems with how it got there. I would have liked a council vote on that. It saddens me that the American flag is not seen as inclusive, and I hope that we all are fighting to get it seen as more inclusive. I look to, I think Steve is completely right to just kind of keep it up there till a council determines to take it down. So I would second that if that is a...
So, Kate, you made the motion to keep it up until the next council determines what to do with it. Okay, that motion has been made, and Joy has seconded that. Any further discussion on that? Okay. Vice President Weymouth, how do you...
Mike, if I can interrupt, you have 3 hands up.
Oh, I don't
from the public.
Oh, there's Mariana Silva-Buck, okay.
And Lisa Daft and TR.
Okay. Mariana Silva-Buck, please.
I'll let Lisa go first, then TR, because that's the order they came up. I know you can't see it, but I'll let them have their turn in order.
Okay, Lisa Daft. Dr. Daft, please.
Hi. First, I want to say I, sent in a letter supporting flying the blue flag, and I know that's going to come up next. But I really couldn't sit anymore and listen to, some of the comments being made, especially by you, Councilman Breer. By some of the conversation and what you had to say about our letter, in and of itself makes this even more divisive. I have no problem with the Black Lives Matter being flown. However, there's no policy in place to say how long that's going to be flown for. And even to say you're going to leave it up until the next council comes in, what happens to other flags? And you're already talking about the next flag without even honoring any of the requests that come in. And when and how long are those flags going to be left up, or when do they get to fly? I think that we really should be having a policy. If there was a policy in place, a lot of this discussion might not have, gotten so out of hand. As a resident of Barrington for 22 years, I found it very, very disturbing that a town council member would basically bully residents for making a legitimate request. I don't think there's anything wrong with that request, and to belittle us, saying that we were trying to make chits out of people who died in 9/11. I thought that was really inappropriate. I knew someone who died in the North Tower. I know how his family felt when they got part of his remains back 9 or 10 months later. I know what the phone call was like when his mother was calling his cell phone and it kept ringing and going to voicemail. And she said, "Oh, he's okay because it's going to voicemail and his phone's still working." Okay, so I that was insulting, Councilman Breer, and I did not think that was appropriate. And I just things don't have to be divisive. I think putting a policy in place would help those things. And I think all these flags matter: the rainbow flag, the Black Lives Matter flag, all the flags. I mean, there's lots of flags that can be flown, and maybe coming up with a policy that can include all of those in some way, shape, or form, without also disrespecting the American flag, which I personally feel it should be the American flag, the POW, and maybe we support things on a different level. But that's up for the 5 of you to come up with, not for me. But I don't think it has to be that, these people don't support the Black Lives Matter flag. Most of the people on that list support the Black Lives Matter flag being up there, but they also support all the other flags that may be requested. And I think that that's something that you should all be thinking of as well. It's really more about the policy, and for someone to put words in the rest of our mouths who doesn't even know us, it was really inappropriate, very inappropriate. But I really thank you for taking the time. It's very late, and I know you all are doing the best that you can to help things and move forward. And everybody wants that. Of course, it breaks your heart to hear how people may have been treated in our town. That's not something that I condone, but obviously they've lived those things. And of course people support trying to move forward and make things better. But I do think you need a policy. So this is the kind of thing that's going to happen, and then it's going to be debated every time someone wants to fly a flag. And who's going to decide what flag gets to be flown? So I really thank you for your time, and thank you for all that you're doing. So thank you very much.
PR, please. You can unmute him. Okay, you are unmuted, sir.
Thank you. Just going over some of the past things that Lisa had just stated. You guys are taking a vote to maintain a flag, to fly a flag, where you haven't even come up with a council policy yet. I think that's a little bit inappropriate at this time. So I have a little letter here that I'd like to read that would bring into the back the blue flag into that, if I can read it.
Sure, go ahead.
All right. So it says, to the council, I recently put in a request to the town manager to fly the back the blue flag or the first responder flag for 9/11 memorial of 19 years. I was a little disappointed that the manager decided to raise the BLM flag and then denied our request, saying that he was the one making the decisions as to what flags fly for now. It will not fly any flags except for the ones that are including the one he raised. The town manager said he will put my request on the agenda, which it is, of the town council. After a few letters back and forth, he still said no and stated the BLM flag will stay flying until a decision was made by the council. And I informed him that the 9/11 memorial was before the next council. In the meantime, I received a letter from a town council member stating that, so, they're flying their flag, so you guys want to fly yours, was a comment that was stated. And I was not sincere in flying the flags. Well, for those of you that know me, I am very sincere. I have been involved in many groups and committees with coaching and so forth. I have been a firefighter for over 35 years, but not as long as Chief Bissett. I have seen many tragedies and many deaths. So how would you feel if you worked on a 6-year-old or a drunk driving accident who you did not recognize, who did not make it, and when the other rescue was wheeling in the other patient from the same accident, that was all covered in blood, again, who I did not recognize, as he reached up, grabbed my arm, and asked me, TR, how's my son? To this day, I still didn't know who it was, and it took me a few minutes to recognize who it was. Or a 3-year-old boy burned over 90% of his body, screaming, please help me. When you see parents come up to an accident scene as you're trying to cut their kids out of the car while 2 other bodies are laying in the street with white sheets over them. Or you see 343 members of a New York Fire Department die in one day long with countless others. To this day, I can still not watch any of the specials on 9/11. I was thrown back by the decision of the town manager and this council member backing an organization that is totally against police, fire, and authority. What does this say to the local members of the police and fire that are employed by our town? My proposal was to fly the black, back the blue, and first responders. I also believe that the only flag the pole should be is the American flag, below that the state flag, and below that the POW flag. But further review of flag etiquette says another organizational flag could be flown below the flags. This is where the council member had a problem because my statement of only flying the American flag, state flag, and POW MIA flag. I still feel this way. In fact, I would like to see the council come up with a policy to just fly those flags on the pole and allow no others, like in recent town council did between Bristol and Warren. I feel everyone should have their voices heard and protest their cause, but with respect and nonviolence. We are not looking for emotions from the council to get this passed, or to use it as a political point. I thought that flying this flag in the condition of the country would start to bring everyone together, starting here in Barrington, just like what happened on 9/11. Everyone came together. Remember, you cannot change the past, but we can only change the future. So, council, I have 2 proposals. The first is to pass an ordinance to just fly the 3 flags, the American flag, followed by the state flag, followed by the POW MIA flag. My second proposal would be, if you don't pass the first, this proposal follows the first, but would add 2 more flagpoles. The American and POW flag to be flown constantly on the highest pole. The next 2 would be lower and would fly the state flag on one pole continuously, and whatever organization wants to put a flag up would be for 1 week, 1 time a year. That would be my proposal. Thank you for listening to me, and you know how I feel. I am not against anybody. Everybody protest in peace, please. And I'm sorry, but Mariana, I can't remember your last name. Now I know where that chirping battery's coming from. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, TR. Lisa Dapt, you still have your hand up. I don't know if you intended for that. Mariana Silva Buck was next.
I just wanted to make 2 quick comments. The first one was on the councilwoman Weymouth. Just a correction: the Pan American flag. It's not about the Pan African. Flag is not a reflection on the African continent and their individual countries. It's literally a representation of African Americans. It's actually considered an African American flag, and it reflects the African diaspora in America, not necessarily the African continent and its countries as it stays outside of the US. So literally is the representation of the African American flag. And with regards to the Black Lives Matter, I think there is no doubt, well, I shouldn't say that because that would make me making the same assumptions that we did about, the Black Lives Matter, the racism in Barrington. I was going to say there is no doubt that everybody supports the police in Barrington, but that would be a mistake. I would be assuming. However, I think it's important for us to differentiate where one is literally a second civil rights movement. It's something about human rights, whether we agree with some of the policies or the false information that we've been fed. And, just looking from a human standpoint and a human rights standpoint, where we are saying we support Black lives also. And I think sometimes we miss that point, that when say Black Lives Matter, it's not a pie. We are not taking out from the police. We're not taking out from white people. We're not taking out from Latinos. It's Black Lives Matters too. It shouldn't be a controversial thing to say other members of our society matter. And yes, there are particular cases where it's going to be violence and the police can suffer. But let's also recognize where, the different values. And I don't think we should have a policy, but I also believe that everybody should be heard, but that the town council should be making the discretion on the validity of the merits of everybody requesting their own flags or their own purposes. That's all.
Thank you. Kelvin Lazurski, please.
Flying of the first responder flags would be ideal for 9/11. Being a Warren Fire Engine 2 member, I think the appropriate flag would be the firefighter flag. I think that would be more appropriate for 9/11. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Trinky is next, please. We can unmute her, please.
I have a couple of points I'd like to make. I think I heard Mr. Ramachaitis say that Black Lives Matter is totally against fire and police. I don't believe that is true. Black Lives Matter is against police brutality. The movement or the organization, which, yeah, there's a national organization, but it's a very loose conglomeration of people countrywide. Second, I think Black Lives Matter is just a statement. It's not asking people to do anything. If you believe that all lives matter, then you should be able to say Black Lives Matter. As far as a policy, earlier in the meeting, we were talking about the Lions Club and whether there should be a policy about who can do things like they wanted to do. And I think, President Carroll, you said, well, yeah, you like them, but you don't want a policy that makes it possible for the kitty cat group to take over some public land. I think we don't want to make a policy that all sorts of groups get 1 week to fly a flag. We do not want the KKK flag up, for example. I think that the town council can vet each request and see whether it is worthy, whether it's something that they support, whether they think it. And then as a citizen, if I don't like their decisions, I don't vote for them next time.
Thank you. Chase's iPad is actually Amy Hogarth, I believe. Am I right? Can we unmute?
Hi. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I have to admit, I'm kind of jumping on I think the next one, the more of the back the blue discussion, but it seems to have come up. So I don't know if it's okay if I read what I've got now.
Why don't we get to that, because that may take a while too. And I'd just like to kind of get through this one. Lisa,
it was kind of on backing up TR and kind of what his, but I will wait. Whatever you, absolutely, Mr. President, you suggest.
Thank you. Lisa Lowenstein wanted to be heard. Can we unmute her, please?
Trying to unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I wanted to agree with what Kathleen, who also goes by Trinky, said. I think it is very dangerous to start creating a policy, which means that town council time will have to be spent considering every request. And the reason I feel that we can say that is, look at how much time we spent this evening. I think that if someone on the town council brings something to the town council and they decide that it's worth consideration, it shouldn't have to be, we shouldn't all have to be making the basic decision. The basic decision to entertain something should be left completely in the hands of the town council. There should not be a policy. So I'm agreeing with what Kathleen Bruckner, who we call Trinky, said there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. TR would like to be heard. Do you have your hand raised? There you go. You're unmuted.
All right. You know, I agree with Trinky. You know, a policy. Apparently, everybody doesn't consider a policy law or whatever. But that first proposal I made as a policy, leave the flags the way they are. American flag, state flag, POW, and we won't have any of this. Everybody can still protest. Everybody can still have their flags or whatever. Fly them from your house, wherever. That's where mine fly. Mine fly all the time. So I'm just saying, if there is no policy, stick with the first proposal and leave the flags the way they are without any other flags underneath. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other hands.
I will.
I'm sorry, was there someone else who wanted to be heard?
I just wanted to chime in, Mike, because the topic has come up a couple of times about a policy where no other flags fly on those poles. And I understand sort of the simplicity, the logic behind it, but this is what's, turned me off to it from the get-go. Starting, as far as I can tell, but maybe earlier, in 2015, an organization, I had nothing to do with it, I happen to be Armenian, but an organization said, we want you to fly the Armenian flag on Remembrance Day. The gist of the request was that at the time, the US government did not officially recognize the occurrence of the Armenian genocide because it would make Turkey angry. And so to back an authoritarian dictator, we said, we don't want to make you angry, so we're going to say a genocide didn't exist. That flag got flown for 5 years, sometimes just the town manager putting it up, sometimes the town council voting on it. We never heard a word about it. Not one peep. No one saying we need to change a policy. No one saying, well, if you're going to fly the Armenian flag, you have to fly the Turkish flag next week. There was none of that. And so suddenly we put up a pride flag or a Black Lives Matter flag, and everyone's monocle falls into the teacup, like, oh my God, what have we done? And it's just not that complicated, right? I mean, it was the right thing to do, and it remains the right thing to do to keep it flying. And this is not to cast aspersions on anyone who's here. TR, I have all the respect in the world for you, you know that, but it's just a matter of, why is it controversial? And I think by wading too deeply into this, we're going to keep all this attention on our flagpole that was never there. Because for 5 years, you could fly the flag of a foreign country that has a bad human rights record, and no one would say a word about it, right? But if you put up a pride flag, or you put up a Black Lives Matter flag, everyone has to wade into this pool. It just seems silly to me, and I think we just say, you know what, we're not going to get deeper into this toll. It was right to raise the flags we did, and the next council might do it next year, or maybe they won't. I don't know. That's up to them. But that's just my thinking.
So we've had a motion. We've had a motion to fly I should say, not to take the Black Lives Matter flag down, and let the next. Keep it flying until the next council chooses what they want to do. That motion was made by Vice President Weymouth and seconded by Councilor Hearn. Vice President Weymouth, how do you vote on that motion?
Aye.
Councilor Boyajian?
Aye.
Councilor Breyer?
Aye.
Councilor Hearn? Was muted, but it appeared.
It looked like an aye.
It's a aye.
Okay. And I also vote aye. The motion carries. So the Black Lives Matter will remain up until the next council decides what it wants to do.